My name's Rachel. I'm 29, and up until a few weeks ago, I honestly thought my family loved me. Not like we're the closest group chat ever kind of love, but real love, the kind that sticks when things get hard. Then came the text. It was a Thursday. I was in my tiny Chicago apartment, halfway through making lentil soup, don't judge me. It was cold and I was broke, when my phone buzzed once. Just once. Innocent enough. Except it cracked my whole world open. Hey, Rach. Guest list is super tight for the welcome bash. Hope you understand. 3, Mason, my brother. My only sibling. The same guy I used to help cram for algebra tests. The guy I FaceTimed through 3 breakups and 2 military deployments. The guy I sent $80 worth of peanut butter and protein bars to when he was stuck in Qatar during lockdown. Apparently, I was no longer guest list material. I stared at that text with a spoonful of lentils trembling in my hand. My glasses fogged up from the steam like a bad rom-com cliche. Except this wasn't funny. I read the message again. Then, a third time. No sorry, no love you. Just hope you understand, like I was a damn HR department being let go during a restructure. I called my mom. Because if anyone could explain this, it had to be her. She picked up after 2 rings. Hi, honey. Everything okay? Did you know I wasn't invited to Mason's party? I didn't even bother softening my voice. Her silence was immediate, chilling. Then she sighed. Rachel, don't take it personally. It's just complicated. Complicated. Classic mom code for, we already decided and don't want to deal with your reaction. I'm his sister, I said slowly. How does that not automatically qualify me for the damn party? Well, Claire handled most of the planning. Claire, my cousin, Mason's favorite. A marketing major with a permanent fake laugh and 1 million followers on TikTok for making hot girl salad in mason jars. You let Claire plan it? I asked, fighting back a laugh. So I'm not family now because I don't match the aesthetic? Mom's voice dropped. Sweetie, that's not fair. There was a limited budget. Space constraints. I blinked. You hosted it at the Belmont Club. That place has a grand piano in the bathroom. Don't lie to me about space. Another pause. Then the real kicker. Besides, she said, quieter now, Claire wanted to do something special for Mason. He's been through a lot. I sent him care packages when he was crying overseas. I snapped. Rachel, don't make this into one of your things. Please. Oh, my things. You know, the little inconvenient truths I bring up, like that time they forgot my birthday. Or the Christmas the first spent alone while they vacationed in Cabo without telling me. But this? This wasn't just a forgotten invite or a social media snub. This was bigger, because 30 minutes after that call, I heard the number that made my blood go cold, $80,000. That's how much Claire spent on the party. How do I know? Because I overheard it, in a damn coffee shop. I was at Java Nest, pretending to work on a freelance pitch while stress-sipping my 3rd iced Americano, when I heard Claire's voice. And the floral wall alone? 10 grand. Worth it. Mason's face when he saw it? Priceless. Her friend giggled. Wait, how did you afford that? Claire shrugged. Honestly, I used Rach's fund. It's not like she touches it anyway. My stomach dropped so hard I almost threw up my pastry. My fund. My trust fund. Set up by Grandpa before he passed. Untouched for years. Meant for grad school. Or a down payment. Or, I don't know my future. They drained it. For a party. A party I wasn't even invited to. I couldn't breathe. I left the cafe in a haze. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a croissant across the room, though it crossed my mind. I just walked home, numb. The kind of numb that makes you wonder if you're the crazy one. Like maybe you overreacted. Maybe it wasn't technically theft, right? But deep down I knew. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. That night, I opened my laptop and logged into the portal where my trust fund had always lived quiet. Untouched, my little safety net. The balance? 0. I clicked the transaction history. Withdrawal. Transfer. Authorized by Guardian weeks ago. The signature on file? My mother's. That was the moment I stopped crying. That was the moment I stopped caring whether they thought I was too sensitive or too emotional or just being dramatic. Because this wasn't about cake or guest lists. This was about betrayal. and I was done pretending. I booked a solo trip to Aspen, one of those ridiculous sloped side lodges with complimentary wine tastings and heated bathroom floors. I threw in ski lessons even though I'm terrified of heights. I chose the fluffiest robes and fastest room service. If they were going to spend my money, I was going to enjoy what little was left. On me. The next morning, I texted Mason, "Hey, heard about the party, hope it was fun. I'm in Aspen." "No guest list required," he replied. "Rach, please. Let's talk." I didn't answer, because for once, I wasn't the one patching things up. Let them feel the silence. Let them sit in it. Aspen was surreal. I stepped off the plane, and the air hit different, crisp, sharp, like a clean slate. The kind of cold that wakes you up from whatever fog you've been living in. It wasn't just a vacation. It was an exhale I didn't know I'd been holding. The lodge was all dark wood and soft light. My room had a fireplace and a view straight out of a snow globe. I dropped my bags, sat on the bed, and just breathed. It was the first time in years. I didn't feel like I owed anyone a response, an explanation, a text back. For 2 days, I did nothing but sip overpriced hot chocolate, take long walks in boots too new for hiking, and stare at the snow like it held answers. I even tried a ski lesson. I was terrible. I fell on my butt 5 times and laughed so hard, I almost forgot everything. Almost. But grief has a way of seeping into the quiet. On the 3rd night, I was curled up by the fire, scrolling through old photos. There was one of me and Mason when we were kids, wrapped in a blanket fort, flashlight under our chins like we were telling ghost stories. Back when he still had my back. My phone buzzed again. "Mom, let's not throw away years of love over a misunderstanding. Call me when you're ready." "A misunderstanding?" I scoffed. "Like I accidentally misread we stole your money and excluded you from the party it paid for. Cute." I didn't respond, but something about the wording nagged me. She was trying to rewrite the story, gaslight me into thinking it wasn't theft, it was just family stuff, a mix-up, an oopsie. Nah. I opened my laptop again, not to check bank balances this time. I had a different idea. I'd forgotten I still had access to the old family Google Drive. Years ago, Mason and I used it to plan Dad's surprise 60th before things got weird and distant. I clicked in, and there it was. A shared folder titled Claire's Event Budget. I don't know why they didn't delete it. Probably assumed I wouldn't check, that I'd roll over like always. But I did check. And what I found made my skin go cold. Invoices, Dykes contracts, payment logs, and line item after line item listed under the account name R. Bennett Trust Fund. My name. They didn't just use my money they planned to. Months in advance. There were messages between my mom and Claire. Rachel doesn't touch it. She won't notice. Let's make this special for Mason. Just pull from her fund. It's still in the family. Like it was community property. Like my future was a donation box. That rage, the kind that simmers slow, like oil heating under a lid it kicked in. I started screenshotting everything, saving it to a locked folder, forwarding it to myself in case they deleted it later. If they wanted to act like I didn't matter, fine. But they were gonna feel this one. That night, I couldn't sleep. So I did what any emotionally wrecked millennial would do. I posted a vague, petty Instagram story. Just a boomerang of wine clinking by the fire, captioned, "Nothing like a stolen trust fund to fund someone else's big day petty. Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely." The next morning, Mason called. Not texted. Called. I let it ring. Twice. Then I picked up. His voice was quiet. Like someone testing the ice before stepping on it. "Hey, Rach." "Hey," I said flatly. I didn't fake it. Didn't ask how he was. I let the silence breathe. I didn't know about the fund. Claire handled the money stuff. I thought it was Mom and Dad paying. I didn't say anything. Look, I get it now. I do. And I'm sorry. You didn't think it was weird that your sister, who's always broke, didn't show up to your $80? Oh, welcome home party? I asked, calm but sharp. He sighed. I thought you were mad at me. You hadn't responded to my messages in weeks. Because I found out about the party from a third-party invite, and I was already iced out. Still, he said, I didn't mean to hurt you. Intentions don't erase consequences. I told him I needed time, that I didn't hate him, but I didn't trust him either. That maybe one day we'd be good again, but not today. He said he understood. Then he asked the question that made my blood freeze. Are you gonna take legal action? I paused. He kept talking fast, because Mom's freaking out. Says you're threatening the family. That if you make this public, it'll ruin everything. There it was. Not we're sorry. Not let's fix it. Just don't make us look bad. I hung up, and that's when I knew exactly what I had to do. The next week, I was back in Chicago. I didn't tell anyone. I moved quietly, like a shadow. I booked a consultation with a financial lawyer named Celeste, who came highly recommended. She didn't flinch when I laid everything out. She just nodded, took notes, and said one sentence I'll never forget. You have a case. A strong one. We went through every document, every signature. The fund wasn't communal. It was mine, and the withdrawals were made under false authorization. That's called fraud. Mom's signature was on all of it. Celeste asked me what I wanted. Did I want to sue? Press charges? Go nuclear? And I'll be honest, a part of me did. But deeper than revenge, I wanted accountability. I wanted them to feel what I felt, that gut punch of betrayal. The rug pulled out from under you. So I didn't go public. Not yet. Instead, I wrote an email. A calm, professional, bullet-pointed email with attached evidence, and I sent it to the family group thread. The subject line? Clarity and next steps. I wrote, "This is not a misunderstanding. This is theft. You used funds meant for my future without my consent. I have legal representation. I am giving you the opportunity to correct this before it escalates further. You have 5 days to respond. After that, I will proceed accordingly." That night, I turned my phone off. No calls, no texts, no guilt trips, just quiet. And for the first time in my life, that silence felt like peace, not punishment. You'd think when someone receives an email accusing them of stealing 80 grand, they'd respond with humility, or at least a little panic. My family, they formed a group response committee like it was a PR crisis. The first reply didn't come until the 4th day. Claire, of all people, sent it. "Hey, Rachel, this is obviously a huge misunderstanding. Aunt Mel said the fund was just sitting there and that it was okay to borrow from it. I didn't know it was exclusively yours. If I did, I never would have used it. I'm so sorry. Can we talk this out?" Borrow. Borrow? That word made my eye twitch. No borrow includes dropping thousands on a champagne bar and a DJ from No borrow requires faking a signature. Also, Claire calling my mom Aunt Mel instead of your mom wasn't a coincidence. It was her subtle way of shifting blame without looking like she was shifting blame. Day 5 came and went. No email from Mom, not a single word from her or Dad, just Claire, which told me everything I needed to know. They were hiding behind her, letting her take the heat, while they quietly figured out damage control, maybe hoping I'd get tired or guilted into dropping it. They didn't know me at all. On day 6, I got a call from someone I hadn't expected, Nana. Now, my grandmother has always been the quiet observer in our family. Never takes sides, never raises her voice. The kind of woman who slips you $50 in a card and tells you to get something just for you. I answered, heart thudding. "Hi, sweetheart," she said gently. "You have every right to be upset. I just wanted to say, I saw the documents you sent. I sat up straighter." "You did?" She sighed. "Your mother asked me to talk to you. To calm you down, I think. But I'm not calling for her. I'm calling for you." The words caught me off guard. I'd never heard her take a stand like that. "Rachel," she continued, "your grandfather set up that trust for you. He made that clear to all of us. Your name was on it. Not the family's, not Mason's, yours." A lump rose in my throat. Nana wasn't just validating me, she was confirming that they all knew better, that this wasn't a mistake. It was a betrayal with full awareness. Then she paused. "There's something else." "Oh no. I think you should look into the property account. The one your grandfather opened for you when you were 16. My breath caught. "What property account?" She hesitated. "Ask your lawyer. I don't have access anymore. But I remember him saying it was meant for long-term growth. A second fund. More private. He didn't want too many hands in it." Suddenly, I felt like the ground shifted under me again. There was more. and they might have touched that too. After we hung up, I called Celeste. She was calm as always, but I could hear the edge in her voice after I explained. "I'll dig into it," she said. "If there's another asset with your name on it and they tampered with it, that opens a much bigger door." An hour later, I got the confirmation. There was a second account. Smaller than the trust fund, but still substantial. Enough for a down payment on a home. And guess what? A withdrawal. Last year, 50 grand, listed as a family property investment. I felt like throwing up. They'd use that too. Not just for Mason's party. Apparently, my dad had tried flipping a small rental home in Indiana and failed. Badly. Guess whose account covered the loss? Mine. And again, without my knowledge, without my signature. I was done being mad. This wasn't just emotional betrayal anymore. This was legal. And now, there were 2 cases. That night, I didn't cry. I sat in my apartment, stared out at the city lights, and started listing everything I'd ever put on hold for this family. Birthdays skipped. Job offers turned down so I could stay close. All the ways I'd made myself smaller to keep their dysfunction comfortable. I realized they were never going to make it right, because deep down, they didn't think they did anything wrong. They felt entitled to me, to my money, to my silence, but that version of me, she's not coming back. The next day, Celeste sent over a formal notice to both my parents regarding the second account. It wasn't a lawsuit yet, but it was a legal request for explanation, itemized records, and full reimbursement. 2 hours later, my dad called. I let it go to voicemail. His message? "Rach, this is being blown way out of proportion. That house was an investment for the family. For you too, eventually. Can we talk like adults and stop with the lawyer stuff?" Like adults? Oh, now he wanted to be civilized. I saved the voicemail, added it to the folder. Then came the final straw. That evening, I got an email from Mason. It was short. I tried to be neutral, but now Mom and Dad are panicking and saying you're turning into some kind of vengeful psycho. I don't know what's happening, but can you at least come to dinner Sunday so we can talk? I stared at that message for a long time, not because it surprised me, but because it confirmed what I'd known since the beginning. Even he still expected me to fix it, to smooth it over, to sit at the table with the people who stole from me and pretend it was just complicated. I hit reply. "No, Mason, I'm not coming to dinner. You want to talk? Call my lawyer." Then I blocked his number. It wasn't about being petty. It was about protecting my peace. And in that moment, I felt something shift in me. Something final. That weekend, I packed up half my apartment. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I'd found a short-term lease on a place outside the city. Quieter. More sunlight. Less history. I needed space to breathe. To heal. And while I was there, sitting on a sun-drenched porch with a cup of tea, my lawyer called. "We received their counteroffer," she said. "Oh? They've offered to repay a portion of the funds. But they want you to sign a non-disclosure agreement." I laughed. Out loud. "Nope," I said. "They don't get silence and forgiveness," Celeste chuckled too. "Didn't think so. Just wanted to hear you say it." We moved forward. No more half measures, no more emotional band-aids over bullet wounds. This was about more than money now. It was about closure, truth, accountability, and I was ready for all of it. The funny thing about standing your ground, people start revealing who they really are, and fast. After I refused the NDA, things went quiet, like eerily quiet. No more texts, no follow-up calls. Even Mason, who'd been pinging me nonstop 2 weeks ago, disappeared like a ghost. I wasn't mad about it. I'd spent most of my life carrying the weight of other people's emotions. Finally letting it all drop felt good. Like I'd taken off a coat I didn't realize I'd been wearing in the summer heat. But silence from toxic people is rarely peace. It's usually strategy. And sure enough, on Monday, I got a call from Celeste. She sounded calm, but her words had a certain sharpness. They're shopping for a new lawyer. Someone aggressive. Someone who thinks your claims are family drama and not a case. I wasn't surprised. Of course they wanted to turn this into a melodrama instead of what it really was, fraud and financial abuse. "Let them try," I said. "I've got the paper trail." Celeste paused. "There's more. Your mother's lawyer reached out directly. She says They'll only consider repayment if you withdraw the property complaint. And, she hesitated, to issue a written apology for the emotional distresses you've caused. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so twisted I couldn't even process it straight. They want me to apologize? I asked, stunned. She sighed. Rachel, they're trying to flip the narrative. Paint you as unstable, vindictive. I was quiet for a second. Then I said what I knew deep down was true. They're not trying to make this right. They're trying to win. And I wasn't playing by those rules anymore. That same afternoon, I got a text that knocked the wind out of me. It was from Eli, my cousin on Dad's side. Quiet, techie, kind of a black sheep like me. We hadn't talked in over a year, just birthday texts and the occasional meme. Eli, hey, can we talk? I saw what's going on. I think I can help. And there's something you should see. I met him the next day at a coffee shop halfway between us. He looked nervous, like he wasn't sure if I'd even show up. But when I did, he smiled. I'm glad you came, he said, sliding into the booth across from me. He didn't waste time. Pulled out a flash drive, set it on the table like it was a weapon. I found this in an old shared drive from Dad's computer. He used to help your dad with bookkeeping stuff, taxes, trust planning. I blinked. Eli, what's on that? He lowered his voice. Proof they've been dipping into your accounts for years. Not just the trust, not just the property fund. There was another one, a side account tied to your name that your grandfather set up. They've been using it to cover stuff for Mason, car payments, student loans, even part of Claire's tuition. I felt dizzy. Another account? Another betrayal? I don't know why they thought no one would ever check, he said, shaking his head. But I saw what they did, and I couldn't stay quiet. I reached for the flash drive like it might vanish. My hand was trembling. Thank you, I whispered. He shrugged. You're the only one in this family who's ever told the truth. It's about time someone backed you up. Celeste's jaw clenched when I handed her the flash drive the next morning. We sat side by side at her downtown office, watching transaction logs scroll by on the screen. Eli wasn't lying. There were monthly withdrawals, some labeled as MISC family support, others under vague aliases like educational expenses, all traced back to the account opened in my name. Rachel, she said slowly, this puts everything in a whole new light. What do you mean? This isn't just about misused money anymore. This is systematic. There's a clear pattern. Someone was accessing and redistributing your assets like they were a family pool. But they're not, I said, voice shaking. No, she said. They're yours, and we can prove it. I stared at the screen, and for the first time, I didn't feel powerless. I felt ready. Let's go all in, I said. Whatever it takes. Meanwhile, back on the family front, the smear campaign had begun. I didn't see it directly, of course not. But people talk. Screenshots get shared. Stories make their way back through back channels. Apparently, I'd changed. I'd let money corrupt me. I was sick, unstable, and obsessed with drama. Classic projection. They were losing control of the narrative, and they didn't know what to do. But what hurt most wasn't the lies. It was the silence from the people who knew better, the ones who had benefited from me in quiet ways for years. The cousins I covered for, the aunt I gave money to after her divorce. Not one of them said, "This isn't right." Not one stood up, except Eli. He became my rock. We started talking daily, sharing stories, old memories, even jokes. It was healing in ways I didn't know I needed. One night, after a long call, he said something I'll never forget. You're doing something the rest of us never dared to. You're holding up a mirror. And maybe that's why they hated me so much now, because they finally had to look at themselves. 2 weeks later, we filed the civil case. Fraud, misappropriation of assets, forgery, unauthorized access to private accounts. It was real now, not just a family fight, not just whispered drama over dinner. Real. The paperwork was clean, airtight, and backed by years of records. Celeste was meticulous. We even had timeline charts, logs, screen captures, and Eli's testimony, if needed. Once we filed, they couldn't pretend anymore. No more Rachel's just overreacting. No more. Let's talk this out. Now it was courts, judges, lawyers, and consequences. I didn't expect to feel so calm. I thought I'd be terrified. but I wasn't. For the first time, they were the ones spinning, not me. The next morning, my phone lit up with messages. Not from Mom or Dad, not from Mason, but from distant family, old coworkers of my parents. Even one of my former teachers who apparently still followed me on LinkedIn. One message stood out. "You're doing the right thing. People talk." "We've always known something was off. You're not crazy," I cried. Not because I needed the validation, but because I'd spent years gaslighting myself. Years wondering if I was too sensitive, too dramatic, too needy. But I wasn't. I was just the first one to say, enough. Court days are strange. You think they're going to feel cinematic, like something from a legal drama, where people shout and truth crashes down like thunder. But in reality, it's a lot of waiting, a lot of whispering in cold hallways, a lot of pretending to be calm while your whole life is on display. I wore a navy suit. Simple, clean, nothing flashy. My hands trembled a little, but my heart didn't. I wasn't here to punish anyone. I was here to be heard. Celeste met me outside the courthouse with a confident nod. She looked sharper than ever, hair pinned back, binder under one arm like a weapon. "You ready?" she asked. I nodded, not because I felt brave, but because there was no turning back. The hearing wasn't a full trial yet. This was a preliminary motion. A judge would decide if we had enough to proceed. Whether this was just a family issue like my parents' lawyer kept pushing, or actual financial misconduct. Spoiler, it was very much not just a family issue. They tried to act cool at first. My mom avoided eye contact. Dad glanced at me once like I was an annoying coworker he had to tolerate in a meeting. Mason didn't come at all. I guess he figured silence was safer. But the second the judge entered and Celeste started laying out the evidence, everything changed. She spoke with calm, deliberate authority. There were no fireworks, just facts. Clear, undeniable, time-stamped facts. Withdrawals from my accounts, matching IP addresses, bank access logs, email threads with forged approvals, signatures that didn't match mine, transactions that went straight into Claire's wedding planner, and Dad's failed real estate flip, all in black and white. It was surgical, and my parents? They unraveled faster than I expected. Their lawyer stammered, trying to pivot familial misunderstanding, joint financial dynamics, intended to repay. The judge wasn't buying it. At one point, she cut them off. Intention does not override ownership. If these assets were solely in the plaintiff's name, your clients had no legal right to reallocate them. Translation? This wasn't a family tiff. It was theft. With receipts. We took a break halfway through, and I walked outside for air. The courthouse steps were cold under my heels, but the air felt different, clearer, like something heavy had lifted. Eli joined me a few minutes later, coffee in hand. "Did you see Mom's face when they pulled up the Venmo logs?" He grinned. I snorted. She looked like someone took away her lifetime pass to emotional manipulation. We both laughed, and for a second, I forgot we were standing on the edge of something so big. Then he got quiet. "I know this has been hell, Rach, but I'm proud of you." I looked at him, really looked at him. "You didn't have to get involved," I said. "But you did. That matters." He shrugged, eyes scanning the skyline. "Some of us are just done pretending this family is healthy." And there it was. The sentence that had been circling me for months but hadn't landed until now. Pretending. That's what I'd done my whole life. Pretend things were fine. Pretend I wasn't hurt. Pretend being overlooked, underappreciated, or straight up used didn't sting. Not anymore. Back inside, Celeste finished her presentation with one final detail, an affidavit from Nana. Turns out, she'd quietly signed a statement confirming the original intent of all three funds. She backed up the timeline, the restrictions Grandpa had placed, and the fact that I was the only intended beneficiary. My mom's lawyer tried to claim she was confused due to age. The judge wasn't impressed. "Nana is more coherent than half the lawyers I've seen in here," she muttered, almost amused. That was the moment I realized this was no longer a maybe. This was real. We'd be moving to a full case. Depositions, restitution, possibly even criminal charges, depending on how deep the fraud ran. And my parents knew it. For the first time, I saw fear on my dad's face. Not rage, not arrogance, just fear. My mom looked like she might cry. Not because she felt guilty, but because the consequences were catching up. After the hearing, as we packed up, Celeste leaned toward me. They'll probably try to settle before trial. Depends how much they want to keep their reputations intact. I nodded. Let them try. The next morning, the first offer came in. It was insulting. They'd repay half, in exchange for dropping the case and signing a confidentiality agreement. I almost laughed. You steal 6 figures from me? Lie about it, trash me to everyone we know, and then offer a half-assed refund if I promise to shut up? Nope. Celeste sent a 3-word reply. We'll see you. The story, of course, got around, even without me speaking publicly. That's the thing about family drama whispers move faster than headlines. I started getting messages, some supportive, some passive-aggressive, some that tried to paint me as breaking apart the family. As if I hadn't spent years being the glue. One message came from a cousin I barely knew. I wish I'd done what you're doing when they drained my college fund. I stared at it for a while. Read it again. I wasn't alone. They'd done this before. Maybe not at the same scale. Maybe not as obviously. But the pattern was there, taking from the quiet ones. The ones who wouldn't fight back. The ones who stayed close, who showed up, who didn't ask questions. Well, the quiet one found her voice, and she wasn't done yet. Weeks passed. The legal prep intensified. We gathered more evidence, timeline breakdowns, expense reports. Even one of Mason's friends submitted a written statement confirming he'd bragged about how Claire pulled it off using Rachel's backup fund. I wanted to feel victorious, but mostly, I felt steady, like I'd finally stepped out of a storm I didn't know I was standing in. One morning, while going over documents with Celeste, she paused and looked at me. You've already won, you know. I raised an eyebrow. The case isn't over. No, she said, smiling. But you broke the cycle. That's the bigger victory. And in that moment, it hit me. This wasn't just about money. It was about truth, boundaries, healing. They tried to take my future, but I took back my voice. And that's priceless. The courtroom was packed on the day of the final ruling. Not with people, no jury, no gallery gasping in suspense. Just a few rows of stiff benches, 2 sets of lawyers, and a judge who looked like she'd seen every version of family betrayal imaginable. But for me, that room held everything. All the silences I'd swallowed, the birthdays they forgot, the months I couldn't pay rent but never touched the fund, because I trusted them. All of it came with me, tucked into the corners of that sterile room. I didn't bring Eli, though he offered. I thanked him but told him I needed to close this one by myself. Not because I didn't need support, but because I'd leaned on everyone else for so long. This one was mine to carry, mine to finish. Celeste walked in beside me, steady and confident, like always. We'd already presented everything. The final documents, the digital logs, the statements, the signatures, all the receipts. Now it was just time for the judge to speak. She did. And when she did, she didn't hesitate. She found in my favor every dollar, all 3 accounts, verified, misused, fraudulently accessed. And not just repayment, damages. My parents, the ones who told me I was too emotional, too dramatic, too sensitive, were ordered to pay back every cent, plus a financial penalty, plus legal costs. It wasn't just a legal win. It was validation, a legal declaration that what they did was wrong. Not family business, not an internal misunderstanding, just wrong. They weren't handcuffed. This wasn't a crime trial. But the look on my mother's face when the gavel dropped, it told me everything I needed to know. She finally realized I wasn't coming back to the version of me she could control. After the hearing, she tried to approach me. My dad hung back, jaw locked, arms crossed like stone. But Mom? She took a few steps toward me, her voice low. Rachel, do you really want this to be the way we end? I met her eyes, not cold, not cruel, just clear. No, I said. But you ended this the moment you signed my name and called it love. She blinked. Like she expected a hug, a tearful reunion, some grand gesture of forgiveness. I gave her nothing. Not out of spite, out of self-respect. I walked past her, past my father's silence, past everything I used to beg them to see, and I kept walking. It took weeks for the funds to transfer, weeks for the bank statements to show full balances, fully restored. But when they did, I cried. Not for the money. That wasn't it. I cried for the me I'd spent so long trying to protect. The version of me who thought loyalty meant swallowing betrayal. Who thought family meant sacrificing yourself until there was nothing left. She made it through, and now I could finally breathe. I didn't move to punish them. I moved for peace. A month after the ruling, I left Chicago, packed up my little apartment, sold off half my stuff, and drove west with a playlist and no firm destination. Just open road and the kind of silence that doesn't hurt, the kind that heals. I ended up in Oregon, small town. Trees taller than buildings, mountains in the distance like quiet sentinels. The kind of place where people smile when they pass you on the street and actually mean it. I rented a little cabin on the edge of a ridge, built a new routine. Coffee by the window, walks without my phone, sleep that wasn't haunted by guilt or obligation. I designed again, freelanced. Started taking on clients who respected my time and didn't expect last-minute miracles. And for the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving, I was living. One night, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address, just a name at the bottom. Mason. I hesitated before opening it. Thought about throwing it away. But curiosity won. It wasn't long, just one page. But it was more honest than anything he'd ever said out loud. I thought staying out of it made me neutral. I thought letting it go was keeping the peace. But I see now, silence wasn't neutral. It was complicity. I let them steal from you and still expected you to be the good sister. That wasn't fair. You didn't owe us anything. You never did. I hope you're happy. You earned it. No apology could undo what he'd allowed. But it was something. I didn't write back, not because I hated him, but because not everything broken needs to be rebuilt. Some things get to stay closed. Nana passed away that spring, peacefully in her sleep. Eli called to tell me. Said she asked for me the week before. Said she kept a photo of us on her dresser. I cried that day too, but not like before. Not angry, not betrayed, just soft, grateful. For the one person who saw me clearly when it counted. We all have someone. And sometimes it's not who we expect. A year passed, I bought a house. Tiny, sunlit, nothing fancy. But it's mine. Paid for without guilt. Without strings. Without anyone else's fingerprints on the deed. There's a garden out back. A studio room where I paint on weekends, even if I'm terrible at it. And a spare room I turned into a guest space, even though I haven't invited anyone yet. Maybe someday. Maybe not. That's the thing about healing, you don't owe it to anyone else's timeline. Do I think about them? Sometimes. Holidays are weird. Birthdays are quieter. The old group chat is probably still active, just without me. I don't check. I don't need to. I have people now. Real ones. A small circle of friends who don't need explanations or apologies. Just presence, laughter, shared snacks, and silent understanding. The kind of family you build, not inherit. I didn't burn the bridge. I just walked off it. And when I turned around, I realized they were the ones holding the match the whole time. Let them explain the ashes however they want. I'm not coming back to rewrite their version of events, because I'm finally writing mine. And it starts here. Story 2, in Boston, night falls early in the winter. Melissa Green inhaled deeply and quietly as she looked out the hospital window at the snow that had started to fall. When the cell phone in her white coat pocket vibrated, a message from Thomas appeared on the screen. "Keep going today. I'll prepare dinner." Melissa couldn't resist grinning. She had married Thomas 3 years prior, and he was the most kind person she had ever encountered. He constantly took care of Melissa as a doctor at the same Massachusetts General Hospital between his hectic workdays. "The patient in room 607, Miss Green, is calling for you." Melissa was startled back to reality by a coworker's voice, and she rushed down the corridor. Has 10 years of nursing experience. She was well liked by the patients. She had spent a lot of time working in the pediatric unit and was particularly skilled with kids. Melissa started feeling a little ill a few weeks ago on her way home after her job that day. She had been exhausted and experiencing morning sickness. She initially believed it was just a seasonal illness, but yesterday she finally got tested because the symptoms continued. Tomorrow, the findings would be accessible. After she got to the flat, The smells of delicious cooking were already filling the kitchen. As promised, Thomas was cooking dinner. Melissa always felt more secure when she saw his towering, powerful presence behind her. "I've returned home. Welcome back, Mel." After turning around, Thomas gave her a kiss. "How did your day go? As usual, busy? Do you know anyone who posts tales on YouTube and makes over $10,000 a month? Just a laptop, no voice, no face. I do it. If you're interested, click the link below, but I'm okay." Melissa faked a grin. They watched TV on the sofa after supper. Melissa put her hand on her stomach without thinking. She caught her breath if the outcome was what she had anticipated. "What's the matter?" Thomas gave her a worried look. "Just pondering." Melissa hesitated, then went on. "My test results will be out tomorrow, by the way." Melissa was right when she made her forecast the next morning. When she came out of the hospital testing room, she was pregnant. Anxiety and excitement were mixed together on her face. She hurriedly dialed Thomas, who was ecstatic and hurried to her place. Right away. "Mel? Really?" With tears in his eyes, Thomas gave her a hug. "Our baby. It's unbelievable." Melissa's eyes were watering as she gazed at her spouse. "We're going to have kids, Thomas." But Melissa sensed dimly that this delight would not be shared by all members of the family. She called Robert and Eleanor, Thomas's parents, first. They were so delighted that they declared they would come and celebrate immediately. On the other hand, she received a chilly reaction when she told her mother, Diane, seeking attention once more. Ashley recently received a promotion. Diane's tone was one of derision. Ashley, Melissa's sister, shared their mother's employment at a marketing firm. She also didn't appear very thrilled about Melissa's pregnancy. Now, what has Melissa done? On the other end of the phone was Ashley's voice. To keep herself calm, Melissa inhaled deeply. Before her father, William, died 5 years ago, she had been made fun of by her mother and sister since she was a young child. The only family member who genuinely loved her was him. "Mel, congrats." Before hanging up, those were her mother's last words. Melissa was aware of their lack of sincerity, though. Thomas had entirely different parents. From the day they first met Melissa, Melissa was treated like their own daughter by Eleanor, the head of a local charity organization, and Robert, a successful doctor. While holding Melissa's hand during the dinner that night, Eleanor said, "I'm so happy to welcome you to our family. From now on, you will require a great deal of assistance, so don't be afraid to ask for anything. Many thanks." Melissa responded with sincere appreciation. "I'm waiting for you to be born," Melissa said to the tiny life inside her womb as she lay in bed that night. "You are deserving of being the most adored person on the planet." Unconsciously, Thomas, who was sleeping next to her, extended his arm in her direction. In his arms, Melissa felt secure. They would soon have 3 members of the family. At last, the devoted, authentic family she had always desired was beginning to take shape. "My sister and mother might change after the baby is born." Melissa closed her eyes and hoped. As Melissa's pregnancy went on, her body started to change. She persisted in working as a nurse despite experiencing severe nausea and exhaustion on occasion. Then, at 7 months pregnant, an unforeseen event occurred. "Where are you, Thomas?" Melissa's hands were shaking as she gripped her phone. However, she still has 2 weeks until her due date. She woke up at 3 in the morning, realized her water had broken, and was suddenly in excruciating pain. She knew right away, as a nurse, that they were actual contractions. "Are you all right, Mel? Has something taken place?" The faint sound of a convention hall could be heard on the other end of Thomas's faraway voice. 2 days prior, he had departed for Chicago to attend a global conference on pediatric medicine. The infant. "Now it's coming." Melissa gave a painful grimace in response. "My water broke." "What?" However, 2 weeks remained. Thomas's tone instantly became solemn. "Make a cab call immediately. The earliest trip back to Boston is what I'll search for. To thank you, I'll give Eleanor a call." She was able to speak before the subsequent contraction occurred. Melissa barely had time to get a cab before leaving for her job at Massachusetts General Hospital. The obstetrics team was waiting for her when she arrived. Her coworkers hurried her to the delivery room and seated her in a wheelchair right away. "How many minutes will it take them to arrive?" Dr. Summers, Dr. Green, calmly, the obstetrician inquired. After collecting her breath, Melissa said, "About 7 minutes. However, they are becoming more intimate." Dr. Summers informed her that her cervix was just 3 millimeters dilated following a routine check. "You'll be all right, but this struggle may be lengthy." The door opened and Eleanor hurried in, looking pale, less than an hour after Melissa had laid down in the delivery room. "Are you okay, Melissa? I got a call from Thomas." Eleanor grasped her hand and gave her a worried look. "Thank you for coming, Eleanor." Melissa's expression was one of relaxation. "What do you say? My daughter is you." By this moment, "How could I not be by your side?" Eleanor dabbed at Melissa's perspiring brow. Melissa's eyes filled with tears. Would this be how her own mother would have reacted? She considered calling Diane, but she didn't want to hear her mother's icy comments just now. Over time, the contractions became more intense. Her cervix had only dilated to 5 centimeters after 6 hours. "Not quite yet," the doctor spoke while trembling in agony. Melissa and Thomas were still on a video call. He kept encouraging her until he made a commitment to take the following trip to Boston. "Mel, you have strength. I will undoubtedly arrive on time. Remember to take deep breaths." During the small breaks between contractions, Eleanor stayed by her side and offered words of support. Melissa slipped into her childhood recollections. She had always been a shadow of Ashley. Melissa's mother said that Ashley would have won first place when Melissa finished third on a school sports day. Her decision was minimized when she enrolled in college. "You're only going to be a nurse then?" Ashley attends a business school. Her dream was only encouraged by her father. "One occupation that saves lives is nursing. Melissa, your power is in your kindness." He had said that Diane and Ashley had icy attitudes even during her wedding. Diane little participated in the wedding planning, and Ashley declined to be a bridesmaid. Rather, Robert and Eleanor supported it wholeheartedly, celebrating as though it were the wedding of their own daughter. Melissa was jerked out of her reverie by another surge of anguish. Eleanor. Her breathing were strained, and she pushed out words. "If I didn't think that way," Eleanor cut her off. "You and the infant will be all right. We're with you here." Melissa was getting to the end of her strength. Dr. Summers' expression was also one of concern. "I'm a little concerned about the baby's heartbeat, even though your cervix has dilated to 8 centimeters. Is the infant in peril?" Melissa shook in terror as she asked. "We haven't reached that point yet. However, if nothing changes, we may have to think about having a C-section." Eleanor tightened her grip on her hand. "We're here for you no matter what." At that moment, the door of the delivery room sprang open, and Thomas hurried in, panting. Melissa's face lit up with relief from Mel Thomas. "You succeeded." Naturally, rushing to her side, he planted a kiss on her perspiring forehead. "You did a good job when I was away." Finally, 1 hour after Thomas arrived, Melissa's cervix dilated completely. "Melissa, it's time." During the following contraction, push as hard as you can. Thomas and her mother-in-law encouraged her to follow Dr. Summers' instructions. Melissa struggled mightily to maintain consciousness, despite the agony and fatigue. Desperately, she hung on. "The head is visible to me. A bit extra, please." The voice of Dr. Summers sounded distant. Using all the power she had left, she gave it one more push. Abruptly, the sound of a baby's cries entered the room. It's a female, a girl in excellent health. With tears in her eyes, Dr. Summers made the announcement. The infant was put on Melissa's chest right away, its little fingers partially open and its face wrinkled and hairless. A flood of love beyond this planet washed over Melissa. "Hello, Emma," she said softly to the infant. "I've been anticipating your arrival." Unable to contain his tears, Thomas looked at his wife and children. "Mel, thank you. She is our daughter." While using her camera to take photographs, Eleanor also cried as her granddaughter was born. "She is flawless." I had to tell Robert. With her loved ones by her side, Melissa was engulfed in the purest bliss. However, she secretly hoped that her sister and true mother may also experience similar happiness. She decided, holding the infant in her arms. "Mom will undoubtedly be pleased this time. Can I call my mom, Thomas?" A little nervously, Melissa questioned her husband. "Naturally. Mel Thomas gave her his cell phone after realizing how determined she was. The birth of her grandson must bring her joy. Melissa inhaled deeply, held the baby tenderly in her arms, and phoned her mother's number. She awaited her mother's response. Perhaps our connection will alter this time. Looking at her kid for the first time, she pondered. Emma's breathing was calm. Hi there, speaking is Diane Green. Over the phone, her mother's voice could be heard. In the background, there was laughter and music. Mom? It's me. Melissa's heart was racing when she spoke. The baby was born. It's a female. From the other end of the phone, I'm considering calling her Emma. There was a pause, and then Diane's icy chuckle. Right now, I'm occupied with Ashley's birthday celebration. Why would you bring more garbage like you into the world? These remarks were so preposterous that Melissa gasped. She tightened her arms around the infant as she felt the blood drain from her body. She looked for anything to say. How could you, Mom? However, even more agonizing words came at the other end of the phone. In the background, Ashley's high-pitched voice could be heard, ruining the day I had planned. What self-centered timing. Melissa's eyes filled with big tears, spilling down the baby's clothes and running down her face. Her voice shook and her hands shook. I apologize. It seems like they were the only words I used to interrupt. Melissa ended the call. The sound of her unrestrained crying and the quiet, innocent breathing of the sleeping infant were the only sounds left in the room. Melissa tried to suppress her tears as she clutched Emma to her bosom. Melissa? What's the matter? After returning from the corridor, Eleanor remained still at the hospital room's entrance. Seeing Melissa's condition, she hurried over to her side right away. What took place? Eleanor grasped the problem instantly. Melissa read everything in her expression. Did you not give them a call? Melissa could only give a heartbroken nod. As if to shelter the infant from her mother's comments, she clutched her daughter in a protective manner. That's when Thomas came back into the room. He sat next to his wife as soon as he saw how she was feeling. Mel? What took place? There was worry in his voice. Mom. Melissa's speech was stuttering. She referred to me as Emma, too, and garbage. In a moment, Eleanor's expression transformed, and fierce rage flooded her typically soft face. Even so, she was a respectable 63-year-old woman. There was a steely hardness in her gaze now. Eleanor whispered softly. That is not forgivable. Totally unacceptable. Thomas's face was also toughened. He put his hand on his wife's shoulder and gave her a firm embrace. You'll be the greatest mommy, Mel. Emma will get the best upbringing possible. It doesn't matter what they say. However, Eleanor had already acted. She pulled out her own cell phone and called Diane. Stop, Eleanor, Melissa said feebly. I don't want to exacerbate the situation. Eleanor, however, was adamant. No, Melissa. This goes beyond simple disagreement. Humanity is at stake here. Eleanor's voice reverberated across the room as soon as the phone connected. Diane Green. Eleanor Hamilton is this person. Eleanor, oh. Diane's voice became nice all of a sudden. How may I help you? I just listened to what you had to say to your just-delivered daughter. Eleanor's tone was icy and piercing. No one I've ever met would call a newborn trash talk. What? It was only a joke. Diane quickly apologized. Our jokes are often taken too seriously by Melissa. A joke. Eleanor's tone became even more severe. What you find humorous is beyond my comprehension. Would you want someone who talks and behaves like you to become well-known in Boston's charitable circles? Diane could not think of anything to say. One influential figure in the neighborhood was Eleanor Hamilton. Eleanor, that is. Moreover, Eleanor went on ruthlessly. As the Williams estate administrator, Robert will need to reevaluate the monthly assistance you both receive. On the other end of the phone, Diane could be heard regaining her breath. As its administrator, William Green's estate provided a significant income stream that allowed Diane and Ashley to maintain their way of life. The monthly installments might be decided by Robert Hamilton. Eleanor, hold on. Diane's voice abruptly became begging. There's a miscommunication. We were fair. There's no miscommunication, Eleanor stated firmly. We heard what you had to say. Everything is on Thomas's voice memo on his smartphone. This was obviously a falsehood. Diane was obviously upset, but she had no way of knowing it. Eleanor, please. We are related. Eleanor said quietly. "This is not how real family treats each other. Our family consists of Emma and Melissa. Your behavior determines if you belong to that family." From now on, Eleanor hung up after saying that. There was a thick quiet in the room. Thomas was using his own phone already. He replied softly, "I posted about Melissa's delivery and her mother's remarks in the family group chat. By now, Dad is aware." Melissa was perplexed. Thomas. "Eleanor, Melissa, you didn't need to know." Eleanor spoke forcefully yet sweetly. "Setting limits is sometimes essential. It's not simply for your protection. It's also to keep Emma safe." Thomas's phone rang at that very time. "It came from Robert," Thomas responded, and gave a succinct explanation of the circumstances. From the phone, Robert's irate voice reverberated loudly enough for Melissa and Eleanor to hear in the room. "I'll discontinue the support right now. In the event that the receiver acts improperly toward the trustee's family, the contract contains a condition. Clearly, this fits under that category." After giving a nod, Thomas hung up. Dad has done something. According to him, the legal proceedings will be finished today. Melissa laid in bed, attempting to make sense of all that had transpired. She gave Emma a glance. The infant was soundly dozing on her mother's chest, little hands around face, lips gently moving. What right? Did anyone have to call this innocent person trash? Melissa spoke softly to Emma. "I'll be strong." Melissa had trouble falling asleep that night, but it had nothing to do with melancholy. It resulted from a renewed feeling of purpose and will to keep her daughter safe. Emma slept soundly beside the window, stars in the night sky over Boston. For the first time, Melissa sensed a new strength developing within of her. The door of the hospital room was knocked on the next morning. "Melissa, we are." I heard the voice. Melissa's entire body stiffened instantly. Ashley and Diane were on the opposite side of the door. Readjusting her grip on Emma, she inhaled deeply to regain her composure. In a quiet voice, she said, "Come in." Diane and Ashley emerged when the door opened. She had never seen any of them that unkempt. Diane's normally flawless makeup was smeared, and her hair looked disheveled. Ashley, who usually wears high heels, was wearing sneakers and glasses. They each had gift bags and big bouquets of flowers. Melissa Diane walked tearfully toward her daughter. I apologize sincerely. Yesterday, we meant it as a joke," Ashley said. In contrast to her typical haughty demeanor, she spoke in a tiny voice. "Playing around." That became unmanageable. Melissa looked at them, not knowing how to react. Her mind replayed yesterday's comments too clearly to be forgiven, but her innate urge to keep the peace in the family and steer clear of confrontation persisted. At last, she remarked, "I get it. However, they were the words. I am aware of how awful things were." Diane cut in right away. She put a tiny gift on the side of the bed and the flowers on the nightstand. "We sincerely apologize. Is it possible for us to visit our granddaughter?" After hesitating, Melissa lifted Emma a little in her arms for their view. "Emma is her name. What a lovely youngster," Diane muttered. "Can I take her in my arms?" Before Melissa could respond, the door to the hospital room opened once more. Eleanor and Thomas came in. Their expressions were cautious and surprised. "Good morning," Thomas said in a chilly tone. He walked up to his wife's bed and put a protecting hand on her shoulder. "This visit is unplanned." The attitudes of Ashley and Diane shifted immediately. They turned to Eleanor and smiled artificially. "Eleanor, good morning," Diane said in a kind tone. "There appears to have been a miscommunication yesterday. Melissa and the baby were never meant to be harmed." "Yes," Ashley said quickly. "Our joke got out of hand because we were just exhausted. We were eagerly anticipating the grandchild." Eleanor had icy eyes. She had a stone-hard look. "Really? So why didn't you pay Melissa a visit once while she was pregnant? Why didn't you attend the baby shower at all?" Diane could not think of anything to say. "We were busy, which is why." "Too busy?" Eleanor repeated in a mocking tone. "Do you believe such an explanation is appropriate when your daughter is expecting her first child?" There was a thick quiet in the room. Melissa held Emma protectively and retreated in this difficult scenario. "What brought you here today?" At last, Melissa inquired. She spoke quietly yet steadily. Diane paused, looking at Ashley for a moment. as Emma is my first grandchild and you are my daughter, Thomas laughed. Is that all? Naturally, that's all. Diane's voice went up a little. Melissa observed Thomas nod slightly at that point. He was attempting to convey a message. Thomas whispered softly, Mel, we ought to explain why they arrived, in my opinion. Melissa gave her husband a perplexed look. What are you saying? Thomas remarked in a low voice that their reputation had been destroyed overnight due to Eleanor and Robert's harsh denunciation last night. Father gave his lawyer instructions to stop their financial support right now. They are also socially ostracized as a result of Eleanor's connections. Diane's face became white. Thomas isn't that. Don't say stuff like that. Isn't that not a lie? Eleanor spoke gravely. The Boston Women's Charity Association members are already aware of your actions. And Ashley's employer has been informed of their worries over her character. Ashley let out a gasp. Avoid taking any actions that might harm my career. That's a shame, Eleanor replied icily. There are repercussions for actions. Lying down in bed, Melissa made an effort to comprehend the circumstances. Her mother and sister had arrived to avoid a social and economic disaster, not because they had any real regrets. Melissa suddenly underwent a transformation. She felt the wrath she had repressed for years flare up inside of her like a silent fire. As she gazed at her newborn baby, it became evident to her what type of mother she wanted to be for Emma, one who would always put her daughter's needs first and never injure her. Leave now, please. Melissa spoke strongly but quietly. There was silence in the room. I'm sorry, Diane inquired, seemingly unable to accept what she was hearing. I want you to go. Melissa said it again, a bit louder. Her eyes had gained a new vigor. Melissa, you have no right to establish a relationship with my daughter after calling her garbage. Diane spoke louder. Your mommy is me. Someone who loves her kid is a mother, Melissa said coolly. You never loved me. You didn't even think twice about hating me when Dad passed away. That is untrue. Diane vehemently objected. Love, I adore you. Melissa smiled bitterly. You came because Robert stopped providing financial assistance, didn't you? Since Eleanor endangered your reputation in society, Diane could not think of anything to say. Melissa's suspicion was validated by the momentary terror that flashed across her face. Your aim of making money won't be achieved either, Melissa went on. For Emma's and my own sakes, I am no longer the submissive daughter who follows your instructions. I now know how to establish sensible limits. Ashley moved forward and gave Melissa a beseeching look. We truly regret what we did, sis. Give us another opportunity, please. Feeling sorry? Dubiously, Melissa stated at the most significant point in my life. My delivery. My birthday was ruined, you remarked. What regrets do you have? You just fear what you'll lose, don't you? Ashley stopped talking. There was no way to dispute what Melissa had said. Go now, please. At last, Melissa said, Emma needs to relax, and I'm exhausted. Diane tried to resist one final time, but Melissa was family. A true family values one another. In response, Melissa used Eleanor's remarks. Robert, Eleanor, and Thomas are members of my family. The only way to know if you belong to that family is to witness real change. Ashley and Diane were at a loss for words to respond. The door of the hospital room closed as the two walked out quietly. Melissa let out a long breath. Tears filled her eyes and her body shook, but they were tears of relief. Thomas grasped Melissa's hand and sat next to her. You're quite powerful, Mel. Indeed. Eleanor grinned broadly. I'm genuinely proud, Melissa said. I can be strong for this child, as she glanced at Emma. She and Emma brought Thomas home a few days after giving birth, and they started a new family. Reflecting, Thomas slipped into the room and touched Melissa's shoulder. Indeed, just a bit. She turned around and grinned. 3 months have passed since that day. Melissa had lost all communication with her mother and sister since the chaos following the delivery. Eleanor and Robert spent a lot of time with their granddaughter on their regular visits. Melissa's life was settling into a new rhythm as she gradually became accustomed to being a parent. All set to return to the hospital, Thomas inquired softly. The next week, Melissa was supposed to resume her part-time job. Yes, but I'm considering beginning a new project, she gave a resolute response. I want to start a support group for moms who are experiencing postpartum depression and for those who like me, are having problems with their family connections. Her determination shocked Thomas, but he grinned with pride. What a fantastic concept. Of course you can. In the meanwhile, a lot had changed in the lives of Diane and Ashley. Their way of life was instantly affected when Robert stopped providing financial assistance. Diane found herself alone in the neighborhood, and Ashley had to start looking for a real job. They witnessed personally how powerful Eleanor was. "What are you saying? Can't I come?" On the phone, Diane spoke louder. The invitation to the annual banquet of the Boston Women's Charity Association had been abruptly withdrawn. A chilly voice said, "I'm sorry, but it's the committee's decision." Ashley also became aware of her reputation at work, as her colleagues' icy looks and the disregard for her remarks during meetings caused her to take stock of her behavior for the first time. Ashley once sat in the office of a psychologist. "I just wanted attention all the time," she said in a low voice. Melissa was consistently nice and composed. I could have been envious of her. When Emma was around 5 months old, Melissa received a letter. Her mother's handwriting appeared on the envelope. Melissa hesitated to open the mail as she took it up. "It's your choice," Thomas replied calmly as he sat next to her. "What are you interested in doing?" She inhaled deeply before opening the letter. A handwritten letter was inside. "I was unable to own up to my faults toward you for a long time, Melissa. I truly regret that day in the hospital when I called your baby garbage. I'm not going to apologize. I was mistaken. Would it be feasible for me to meet my grandchild someday under whatever loving circumstances you set? Mom." After reading the letter through to the end, Melissa folded it softly. "What are you going to do?" Thomas inquired softly. "I'm not sure yet," she said softly. "I might slowly think about repairing our connection if she truly changes. For now, though." For the moment, she gazed at Emma's cot. "My top responsibility is keeping this youngster safe." Melissa stood looking out at the world from the window. Her life had taken a significant turn. She had developed into a powerful mother rather than merely an obedient daughter. Experience had taught her that family is not defined just by genetic ties. Family ties are created by genuine love and respect.